All right, we're going to take a little trip to Greece. All right, look at our very first classical civilization. Title this New Forms of Government. Now, the Greeks, again, this is the birthplace of what we call democracy. Now, the Greeks, they pondered all types of questions, not just government. What is reality, free will? Do the gods exist? All right, you know, but most importantly, how do we set up a government by the people that's going to benefit the people? Boom. Tough question. And required a great deal of thought, as you can see my thinking man here. Now, looking at ancient Greece before we get into the government, Greece is built off of really the cultures that were nearby. That is Mesopotamia and Egypt. They're going to borrow a great deal from each one of them and sort of build their culture on top of those cultures. And if you look here at this mountainous terrain, Greece was a very unlikely place to have a great culture because all of the little city-states are divided from each other. All right, it makes working together almost impossible. Now, the wonderful thing that they are going to have is this Mediterranean Sea. All right, largely the Phoenicians, are going to play a key role in bringing culture from the Mesopotamia and Egypt into Greece. And we'll talk about that.
But then Greece also seemed an unlikely land to give rise to greatness.
If you look at the physical world of Greece, it's not the kind of place that you'd immediately expect to produce a great civilization. Simply too many mountains. Greece does not have the obvious kind of physical unity that typically seems to be associated with the really great imperial civilizations of the ancient world.
The great civilizations of Pleistocene day lay to the south and east, in Egypt and Persia. They had grown up around rivers and the fertile plains stretching from their banks. But mainland Greece had no great rivers or open plains. This was a landscape riven by mountain ranges. Off her coast lay countless tiny islands. It was impossible for a single ruler to dominate this fragmented world. Instead, Greece was divided into countless tiny nations called city-states.
Okay, now let's look at some of the problems of these city-states, geographically speaking anyway. All right, you got no major rivers, all right, poor soil, so limited farming, all right, and again, too many mountains that divides us up and prevents them from working together. All right, any type of cohesion was just absolutely impossible. Now, the polis, okay, or the city-state as he called it. Polis is just simply a word that means city or politics. All right, we still use this today. You think about metropolitan, which means the city, or you think about Minneapolis. Minneapolis, all right, has the word polis right in it. Okay, and so this is something that we still use today, or the word politics itself. All right. Now, here's some polises that were important back then, okay? From Athens to Argos, Syracuse. Right, these were all city-states in ancient Greece. Now, the two most popular and powerful ones, Athens and Sparta. You guessed it. Now, Athens. All right, this is the birthplace of democracy. Okay, now they didn't just step into democracy like boom. It took time to build. All right, it was a step-by-step process that took a few hundred years. So it's interesting that we try to export democracy to other countries and we expect them to take hold instantly. All right, this is a process. All right. There was a guy named Draco who set up a law code similar to Hammurabi, except for his law code was extremely harsh, but it treated all people equally harsh. So I guess that was a good thing. But if you ever hear the word draconian law, um, like sometimes people refer to, like, say, our drug laws as draconian laws, too harsh. Okay. Salon, he's going to outlaw debt slavery. That is, you owe somebody some money, I shouldn't be able to lock you up in prison because you can't make that payment. All right, so he outlaws debt slavery. All right, and then we get to Cleisthenes. All right, now Cleisthenes is a major figure. So I just named two other figures. All right, Draco and Salon, and then we get to Cleisthenes. He's probably the most important person in this bridge towards democracy, leaving that crazy government of monarchy behind and stepping into something really new, something that's going to revolutionize the world.
He faced a really remarkable challenge. There was no possibility for just simply putting back in power a group of aristocrats. There was no possibility for him to declare himself tyrant. In a sense, what Cleisthenes had to do is design a revolutionary governmental solution for a revolutionary political situation.
Love that guy.
For Cleisthenes, the problem was how to give his fellow Athenians the say in their future that he knew they must now have. On an Athenian hillside, he had a great meeting place carved out from the bare rock. Here, in the shadow of the Acropolis, the citizens of Athens could now gather to discuss the future of their state. On these very steps, rich and poor alike could stand and address their fellow citizens. This is the ancestor of the British House of Commons, the American Congress, of parliaments across the world. And where government had once been decided by the strength of a sword arm or the thrust of a sharpened spear, Cleisthenes instituted the simple vote. A white pebble for yes, a black pebble for no. And with this elegant and simple idea, Cleisthenes instituted the rule.
I know you're thinking it sounded racist.
A system of government which we now know as democracy.
But we're just talking about rocks. Now, that was 508 BCE, okay? 500 years before the birth of Jesus. All right, Cleisthenes builds this incredible thing called democracy. All right, and the word democracy literally means, if you take a look here, DEM means the people, and CRA, this means over here to rule. The people rule. The people rule. All right, so, and that's what the word means, a state ruled by its citizens. Now, Athenian democracy did not extend to all people. All right, citizen is the key word here. Okay, slaves were not citizens. Women were not citizens. Even the poor men were not citizens. You had to be a land-owning male. All right, now let's go to my favorite place, Sparta. Okay, now the Spartans, completely different place. Okay, they didn't want anything to do with democracy. Highly militarized society. That means everything centered around the military. Okay, make sure you get this information down over here about Sparta, and let's see what made a good Spartan?
Ancient Greece was divided into a number of different states. There was my home, the warrior state, Sparta. And, well, lots of other rubbish ones. Go Sparta! And you must be...
Linda and Nigel. We're Archelaus' parents.
Archelaus. I see.
What's wrong?
Well, I've been meaning to speak to you about your son's behavior for some time.
Is he in trouble?
Well, I have a list here of what he's been up to in the last week alone. Screaming, shouting, fighting with other pupils, attacking the teachers.
Really?
Bringing weapons into school, cheating, lying, stealing, bullying. I mean, the list goes on and on. Mr. and Mrs. Archelaus, your son
Yes.
is the perfect Spartan child. He is going to make a fantastic Spartan warrior. You must be very proud.
I'm very proud. Oh, yeah, he's very proud.
All right, it is a Spartan school, so don't cry.
All right, answer that question right here, and that's number one. Now, oligarchy. Oligarchy is what Spartan society is going to build. Instead of ruled by the people, they're going to say ruled by a few. All right. So when we say oligarchy, we mean the few. Usually, we're talking about the rich and the powerful. But in Sparta, they based it on ability. So if you were able to survive in the army for 20, 30 years, you got to join the citizen council. All right. So you had a few men who served on the citizen council who made the decisions for the whole city-state. Okay. Now, back to your short answer. I want you to look at democratic Athens versus militaristic Sparta. Which place would you rather live if you were a woman? And give me 2 reasons why. All right, your reasons should come from here. 2 reasons why. Now let's take a look at Greek culture. Again, I started off by saying that Greek culture was heavily influenced by the Egyptians and the Mesopotamians. Think about their mythology. That is the Greek gods Zeus, Aphrodite, Ares. All right, you probably have heard of some of those. All right, but they're based on Greek and Mesopotamian gods. All right, think about their writing. The writing is strongly, heavily, is completely copied. All right. If it was a test, they would have definitely been given an F for copying. But they adapted and adopted the Phoenician alphabet, made some minor changes, added a few things like vowels, and then passed it over to the Romans. All right. And then who will eventually pass it over to the English, and that's how we'll get it. All right. Now, not everybody believed in their gods. In particular, they had this group called the Philosophers. All right. And these were some of the best thinkers of the day. In particular, I'm going to give you 3: Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Now, what I want you to do with these guys is give me 1 accomplishment for each philosopher. 1 accomplishment. You can get the information from right in here. Now, tomorrow we'll take a look at the Persian War. All right, this is where the Greeks really make a name for themselves. All right, how would you like to fight this guy? Okay, so I will see you tomorrow.